So let's get underway here because we've got a lot of content to cover. My name's Dan. I'm with worldviz, and obviously I've got my colleagues here as well. Matthias Pusch, he is our principal founder and CEO of worldviz. Seda Rabouti, our product manager of Vizard and SightLab VR. And then, of course, our very own Bryce Armstrong, who is the business development lead and product manager for our PRISM Immersive theater systems. So it's got a lot of topics that we're looking to cover today, and I'm just going to give you a really quick overview. So obviously worldviz, we work in virtual reality, extended reality spaces, but what we're trying to do today is to just collect all of our knowledge and insight from the recent trade shows such as CES, other major announcements as companies are doing individual announcements as well, to really just share with you where we see basically the entire device and software market of XR at this moment, February 2023. So we're going to try and do that all in under an hour, but obviously that means we're going to have to go fairly quickly through some of these things, but we're going to be covering both hardware and software. And then once that's over, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the trends. One of the cool things that we'll be doing today, and a little preview of that is Bryce right now standing in our PRISM Immersive Theater, is we'll be talking just very briefly about how that technology fits into this landscape. And yeah, if this is your first time joining us and you're unfamiliar with our format here, we have all attendees are on mute, and we also have a Q&A at the very end. So go ahead throughout this entire presentation, submit your questions. We'll try to get as many questions as we can covered at the end, and that'll probably go over an hour. But what we're going to do is basically just take your questions down. We'll copy them onto the last slide of this presentation, and then we'll basically live fire answer as many of them as we can at the end. This presentation is being recorded, so it should go up on our YouTube probably in the next couple days as we process it and get it all tuned up for life on the web. So yeah, that's really the quick overview. I've got one more housekeeping announcement, and that is we have an upcoming in-person seminar this year in Santa Barbara, so a return to in-person seminars. That is going to be in conjunction with our long-term partner, BioPack, who's also based out of Santa Barbara. BioPack is a leading company who produces physiological measurement devices, primarily for the academic research market, but all over the world as well. So together with BioPack, we'll be giving this conference, and it's going to be a lot of hands-on deep learning about how to make VR applications with biofeedback. So it's a 3-day conference, early bird pricing, $675 for the whole 3-day conference. That's available until, well, basically early next week. So if you're interested in that and have some time in June to travel, or in July to travel to Santa Barbara, we'd love to see you there. So one really quick thing, if you are unfamiliar with worldviz, we've been in this virtual reality, augmented reality, extended reality space since 2002. So we've seen a ton of different use cases, worked in aerospace, engineering. A lot of our customer base is really on the academic research side, where we've have deep roots, as we did come out of the UCSB psychology department. But we have, been working in architecture, engineering, construction, a lot of different spaces. And because of that, we have a very diverse audience. So we would love to learn a little bit more about our attendees today. So I'm going to go ahead and launch our first poll. And this is just to help us learn a little bit more about you. You should see it now in front of you. And if you can go ahead and chime in here and let us know where you're coming from, that would be fantastic, because we would love to just get an idea of who our audience is, and maybe if it's really leaning one way or the other today, we can sort of tailor that on the fly. So I'm seeing, as expected, a lot of our academic research customers are coming in, and education as well. I'll leave this poll open just for a second longer, and then we can go ahead and what we do is we can share it so you guys can actually see the results as well. So let me go ahead. I think we've got pretty good 79%, 82%. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down and show you all. So as expected, quite a few academic research, architecture and engineering, healthcare, zero defense today. So that's great to see, and a lot of other as well. So if you guys have any questions, again, please feel free to ask them throughout this presentation. And without further ado, let's get underway. I'm going to go ahead and make my colleague Sato the presenter. Sato, take it away. Oops, I got to hide this poll. There you go. Now you should be good, Sato.
Okay, yeah, thanks. And I know it's a lot of information, like Dan said, to go through, but I just also wanted to mention that we do have a newsletter article that we put out recently on our website that covers most of this material as well. Or if you have more questions about any individual products or things like that, you can feel free to reach out to us afterwards, and we'll share all these slides with you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my webcam. And yeah, so I guess to start out, let's just take a look briefly at some of the latest trends in XR headsets. So we have been seeing more sensors being added to headsets, so to enable things like eye tracking, face tracking, hand tracking, and even physiological measurements. And more headsets are now focusing on the ability to be used as both a standalone device or to connect to a PC and to connect to a PC wirelessly as well. So kind of that hybrid, being able to just use it with a PC or without. And then we're seeing more headsets utilizing the color pass-through camera to get with the depth sensing camera to achieve mixed reality. So you can go between augmented reality experience or virtual reality experience. The resolutions are continuing to improve, and through the use of things such as mini LED backlighting, we're also seeing a higher dynamic range for contrast. And lastly, one of the major barriers to a wider adoption of wearing VR headsets has been the comfort factor. And with the addition of pancake lenses and smaller and lighter form factors, we're seeing that aspect getting better and better as well. So first up, we have the Meta Quest Pro, which is a fully functional mixed reality headset. It can be used as both a standalone device or connected to a PC using Oculus Link, and which now actually has greatly improved the wireless connectivity, so you don't have to have a wire connected to your PC as much. And it has 1800 by 1920 per eye resolution, which is about the same as the Quest 2, and 106-degree field of view, which is just slightly larger than the Quest 2. The mini LED backlighting allows for a good range of contrast, and the pancake lenses for a smaller, more comfortable form factor with less weight on the front of the headset. And there is some ambient room bleed through if you use it without the included peripheral blockers, but without them, the mixed reality experience is actually a lot better. But then you could put those on if you're going into the virtual reality experience. You could put on those peripheral blockers. And then it comes with the Snapdragon XR2 Plus chip that has 50% more power than the XR2 and the Quest 2. And the controllers are self-tracking with embedded cameras, so there's no issue with losing tracking due to occlusion. And these controllers also, they can be used pretty easily with the Quest 2 as well. And the price is focused a little more on the professional enterprise users at $1,500. And for the consumer side, we should see a lower priced Meta headset, the Quest 3, announced soon, which is rumored to be priced at around $300 to $500, and most likely will be announced at the Meta Connect event this year, and could be released as early as the fall of this year. And there's also rumors of a Meta Quest Pro 2 for 2024. And one thing to get a good feel of the mixed reality capabilities of the Meta Quest Pro is an app called Figment XR. And it lets you place 3D models, videos, and objects, as well as draw with Tilt Brush inside your actual space. So you can get that on the App Store, and it's a good one to try out if you want to see the mixed reality capabilities of the Meta Quest Pro. Also worth mentioning is that as of version 47 of the SDK, there are now shared spatial anchors. So this allows you to have shared experiences in the same location. And now for the Vive headsets, we saw the Vive XR Elite announced this year at CES. And it shares many similarities with the MetaQuest Pro in that it also has a mixed reality headset with a color pass-through camera, pancake-style lenses. The field of view is slightly larger at 110 degrees, and it has a hot swappable battery, which you can also remove the battery and plug it into a power pack for an even smaller form factor. So that at that point, it's almost like smart glasses. So it almost resembles a big pair of sunglasses. And there are diopter lenses, so you can dial in your prescription, so there's no need to wear glasses. And the eye tracking and face tracking will come later on as an add-on. And this headset is priced at around $1,100, and pre-orders will start shipping early next month in early March. And then in regards to additional headset news for Vive, the Vive Pro Eye is now discontinued, but there is an eye tracking add-on that works with the Vive Focus 3. And the Pico 4 was also released last year and comes in two versions. There's the regular one and the enterprise version, with the latter coming with eye tracking and face tracking for the enterprise version. Aside from that, this is a more affordable mixed reality device that also uses the pass-through camera for the mixed reality and has pancake lenses. The resolution is 4K, and the regular version is priced at $399, while the enterprise is at $1,000. And there's also speculation already of a Pico 5 headset, possibly later this year. We'll see. And there's been a lot of rumors and talk floating around about the upcoming Apple headset, which seems to be called the Reality Pro. This will be a higher-end mixed reality headset and should be priced at around $3,000. And well, the rumor to also be two more versions coming out in the near future that will be more affordable versions. And being a lightweight mixed reality headset with eye and hand tracking, it seems to be a competitor also to the MetaQuest Pro. And it will have what they're calling next generation eye and hand tracking. So it may even be that you could use the eye tracking for iris scanning to authenticate payments and logins. And there has also been an augmented reality device in the works from Apple, but this apparently has been postponed for the indefinite future at this point. And right now it seems most likely that this headset will be announced at the Worldwide Developers Conference in June. And there are some predictions that it may actually be released alongside the iPhone 15 this fall. And then we have a high-end headset maker Varjo saw a few announcements, and one being that they're integrating a headset with the Galea brain-computer interface. So this would allow the ability to measure skin, heart, muscles, eyes, and brain activity simultaneously. And it'll be priced on the higher end at around $22,000. And they also announced their XR3 Focal Edition, which is an upgrade to their mixed reality headset with improved optics. So it'll have 70 pixels per degree and 115 degree field of view. So this is a wide field of view mixed reality headset. It has a 200 hertz eye tracking. The depth awareness is through LiDAR. So it has inside out tracking, and it has integrated ultra leap hand tracking. And then just recently, we saw the release of the new Sony PSVR 2, which is targeted for gamers because it just connects to the PS5 game console. But you can see now with the eye tracking being such a popular thing now that this actually is also coming with eye tracking, which they'll use for things like foveated rendering and probably other aspects. And then it also has a 100-degree field of view. There's haptics built into the headset, so you can actually get force feedback on the headset itself. And it has adaptive triggers and 3D audio, and it's priced at around $550. And Pimax, so they'll soon be releasing, I think later this year, the Reality 12K headset. But in the meantime, they just released a new headset called Crystal. And Crystal has interchangeable lenses, so you can actually swap between different fields of view. So if you want, you could go for a 140-degree field of view or 120-degree field of view, and resolutions as well. So it has a pixel density of up to 42 pixels per degree, and it runs at 160 hertz and has built-in eye tracking and inside-out tracking. And it also, this headset, as well as the reality will be able to be used as a standalone or connected to a PC. And then Pimax also announced their Pimax portable entertainment system, which is essentially like a Nintendo Switch where you can play games on a tablet-like device, but then you take that tablet device and you could pop it into a headset and continue playing in VR. And then this is more on the, not something that's going to be released anytime soon, but on the kind of rumor side of the Valve Deckard. So it's kind of a code name for a new Valve headset that's in the works. And it looks to be a hybrid, also standalone and PC device, similar to like the Vive Focus, and also rumored as a successor to the Valve Index, which is speculated to have micro LED display and be wireless. And then we have the Somnium VR1, this is an open source VR headset, so users can 3D print upgrades and assemble them at home. And it will have eye tracking, hand tracking, and mixed reality capabilities. And it should run on the SteamVR and OpenXR platforms, which at this point, I'm assuming all of these headsets, or at least most of them, will be compatible with those platforms. And then VR Engineers now has a new headset available called the XTEL 3, which is a high-end mixed reality device that has 8K resolution and a 180-degree field of view with built-in eye tracking, and it can actually connect to multiple tracking systems, so inside out or SteamVR Lighthouse tracking and other tracking systems. And then there's the DPVR E4. So this is a PC headset that has 4K resolution, 116-degree field of view. It's pretty lightweight at 400 grams and it's priced at $550. And now to move on to some even more compact headsets. So we have the Megane X Ultra compact headset from Shiftall, which is a subsidiary of Panasonic. And this connects to SteamVR. It uses a micro LED display, so very high resolution. It can use inside out or lighthouse tracking. Priced at around $1,700 and will be available this fall. And it's a, pretty small form factor. You can see this someone wearing it, so it's kind of like a pair of sunglasses with some windshield wipers on there. But definitely the headsets are getting smaller, and now even one that's even more lightweight is this Beyond headset from Bigscreen, which is a company that made the Bigscreen app. So this actually only weighs 170 grams, has 5K resolution, and it can tether to a PC with SteamVR tracking. Will be priced around $1,000. And these headsets will be individually fit to each user, so they get a scan of your face, and then you have a headset that fits perfectly for your face and is designed to just be the most comfortable, smallest form factor headset, I guess. And there's another lightweight headset, the Lynx R1, and this is a mixed reality device, which can be both standalone or connected to a PC. Comes in 2 versions. The Agena XR headset, this is tailored for creating learning experiences. So this is their own platform that they have for creating learning experience, but it's also a mixed reality lightweight headset that has integrated eye and hand tracking. And then another competitor that looks to be stepping back into the XR market is Samsung, who at the end of their last event, they announced a partnership with Google and Qualcomm for a new mixed reality device, but there's not much details on this yet. And then in more pure augmented reality devices, the Magic Leap 2 came out last year and has many improvements over the previous version. The field of view has been improved to 70 degrees. It has improved eye tracking, so now there's 2 cameras per eye, an increase in resolution, and it also has the introduction of something called dynamic dimming, which allows you to, it controls how much room light comes into the glasses, so that way the holograms can be easier to see. And it comes in 3 versions, so there's the base version, which is probably the best for standalone single user, and then there's Developer Pro, which gives you access to all the developer options. And then there's the enterprise version, which is for more large-scale deployments and has device management. And then Red 6, so this is developed as an airborne tactical augmented reality system for the military. And they just got a multi-million-dollar contract with the U.S. Air Force to train pilots with the system. And then there's also CES, there's Ant Reality, formerly Ant VR, showed off a new mixed reality device called the Crossfire. It has a 120-degree field of view, and it uses waveguide optics, which is also what Magic Leap uses. And it's a small form factor, so it's like a pair of smart glasses, but you can also go between AR and VR as well. So that's, yeah, a pretty kind of quick run through of all the XR headsets. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Dan to talk about immersive displays.
Awesome. Thanks, Sato. And I got my son coming right into my face here, so I'll lean forward a little bit. But yeah, so thank you for that awesome overview. If you're new to the kind of extended reality space and aren't totally sure about all these terms about augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, where's the line, reach out to us. We're happy to help in that sort of education process. But obviously, this is just a totally comprehensive run through of the major devices that are coming out onto the market right now. Moving away from what we traditionally call head-mounted displays, the devices that basically sit on a person's head as goggles. These are more sort of extended reality, augmented reality devices that live in a space that maybe multiple people can experience and aren't necessarily wearable devices. The first one up in that list is this Google Project Starline. If you haven't seen the promo video for this, I highly recommend it. It is a very interesting technology for holopresence. It's obviously targeting office users, but the idea is you can basically look through this sort of magical looking glass and see the person on the other end of your video conference almost as if they're right there in this auto stereoscopic display with these really cool lights and things. So it's a very interesting technology. Sam, I believe this is Logitech has a similar device coming out. So, again, like a teleconferencing booth that you can sit in and see another person. So interesting sort of remote working solutions. This is in that same vein, but almost more driven towards an event type audience, and that is this HoloPresence avatar magic box. So my colleagues saw this at CES, and they saw the PORTL specifically. A very cool piece of technology. It's a refrigerator-sized display that basically has audio. You don't have to wear glasses, and it's totally 3D. So you look in, and it's a hologram of a person standing there, and it can be a pre-recorded avatar that then you animate. Could be like a virtual concierge, can be a docent, any of these types of robot kind of talkers that you can have. So this is just another sort of emerging area that we see. This has been around for a little bit, but these what we call auto stereoscopic displays, holographic displays. What that means is basically you can look at a display and it's three-dimensional, and they're usually pretty thick and have layers of optics within that display. But these are getting bigger and bigger now. This is a looking glass. They've been around for a while. We've used them on a couple of projects. A very interesting device that's basically a thick piece of glass that can show like a rendering of a 3D model, say like a landscape or something like that within that. So a little hard to tell from this screen, but that's a totally stereoscopic picture of Sean Connery there. So this is something you might have seen on TikTok or on Instagram, and it's this new type of what they call naked eye LED screens. And really, this is just a trick of perspective. It's not like there's some kind of stereoscopic aspect to these displays. But basically, if you're standing at a certain perspective, you can manipulate these things through parallax to make them look 3D. In general, LED technology is an incredibly interesting and advancing technology. You'll see a lot more LED screens in your world as time goes by. And it really is sort of poised to, in the medium term, disrupt some of the projection industry as well, because it's becoming more cost effective and it's more flexible, and it has a huge advantage of being way brighter than projection. So really look, in the next 5 to 10 years to see LED walls replacing traditional cave systems. But for now, it's still a little costly, and you really see them more on billboards and in these really cool immersive art displays. So definitely one of the coolest areas that's emerging right now. So let me just go to my next screen. This is another sort of specialty use case device. It's a Braylon immersive display. These really kind of cool 3D displays targeting designers. Again, don't want to linger too much on these devices because don't have a whole lot of time today, but if you're interested in any of these, reach out to us. We'll fill in the details. And then this is also, this is a passive 3D display called HoloArc. And the really kind of interesting thing about this is that it can run in an extremely bright conditions. So let's say you're outside or, in a brightly lit conference room as this is, you have a theater quality stereoscopic with these low cost passive glasses that can give you a 3D display. So that's again, if you're not super familiar with all these terms like stereoscopic, et cetera, don't worry about that. You can reach out to us. We're happy to help out. But now I'm going to turn a little bit towards something that many of our worldviz customers might be more familiar with, and that's our projection technology. So in addition to integrating headsets for researchers and professionals, worldviz also builds our own projection environments. And this is the latest iteration of that, adding on to our projection VR lineup. And I'm going to hand this over to my colleague, Bryce, and he's going to just give you a live demo of this new PRISM technology. So Bryce, over to you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, just to talk a little bit about use case, these types of projection VR rooms have been set up all over the world for different applications. In the case of PRISM, we are hoping to push things forward in the way of realistic and immersive applications for education and training by creating a simple workflow that doesn't require programming. So it's an ease of use application that relies on 360 videos and pictures. And the applications span beyond education and training to interactive presentations and exhibits, or even environmental enhancements for research projects. So really quickly, I'm going to give you just a rapid tour of what PRISM looks like, how you can interact in this space. So I'll just click one of the scenes here in our gallery, and I can turn my my environment immediately into an operating room, where you can embed additional triggers. So I can touch this device tray, pull up an image, and then use that as part of a simulation. In this case, maybe it's a medical simulation, maybe it's a room orientation. This can be done on a large-scale map or a smaller space, or even for a vehicle orientation. So I'm going to swipe out of this, and then back to my gallery. I can now show you what it looks like to be in a more dynamic environment. Here, we're on a crosswalk in Tokyo. So from my perspective, in the middle of this room, with images that reach over my head, the experience is immersive and engaging, where I can now react to the environment, feel as if I'm there. So I'm going to swipe out of this, just give you one more example of, say, a map application where I want to orient folks around, in this case, our local Channel Islands. We're in Santa Barbara, California, so these are our offshore resource here that I can now pull up images from these different touch interactive points to show points of interest. If we wanted to talk about development in these spaces, that could be an opportunity. There's stimuli used for kind of whatever purpose you want. The point being, it's a interactive surround projection and sound system, fully touch enabled. So I'm going to pass it back over to Dan. But if you have questions about interactive spaces, how they can be enabled with 3D, if you want to have a system that incorporates both this PRISM software, which is 360 image and video based, with the additional VR, traditional VR, interactive components, we can handle that as well. As Dan mentioned very early on, as a company with 20 years experience working in virtual environments and VR and AR applications and immersive applications, we can do a lot in terms of add-on functionality. So if this is sparking any interest, please engage us and we can kind of fill in more information.
Awesome, thanks, Bryce. Yeah, so just to add on to that, PRISM is sort of a parallel but complementary feature to our traditional stereoscopic head-tracked active projection systems. And you can basically, if you already have a projection system from worldviz, you can actually add PRISM functionality to that, or you can combine these traditional, what we would call cave-style systems with this PRISM functionality. And as Bryce pointed out, and as we'll get to in the next section here, we have really embraced a rapid development pipeline and an ease of use pipeline that's entirely drag and drop. So if you're interested in learning more about that, feel free to reach out to us at any time. Again, PRISM, it's something that can fit into almost any existing space. It uses front projections, so it has a very low footprint. It comes in, these are just 3 base models of PRISM, but we can expand to any size. So we're really excited about this. I think, moving away from headsets, not everybody wants to put a headset on. Having a group experience in a dynamic, immersive environment brings a lot of value to a lot of different spaces. So, and to kind of hand this back over to Sato to really take us through the software side, I think you'll see that a lot has been turned towards this ease of use content creation. So Sato, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make you presenter again, and you can take it from here.
Okay, yeah, so now to move on to talk a little bit more about motion capture solutions, and then go into haptics and input devices. And yeah, and then after that we'll go onto the machine learning, content creation, and software solutions. And as Dan was mentioning, you'll see that it's really starting to bridge the gap between being able to create and have interactive content and just things getting easier and easier. A lot of that is accelerated with AI. And so first up, this is a tool for creating avatar animations, and it just uses a single camera. You can, for instance, you could use your phone camera, act out some, I don't know, animation, like act out something that you want to do, and then you could even upload a video that's already pre-recorded, and this does full body capture with finger tracking. They're going to add facial tracking in the near future. And then you could sign up for a free account that's at this website here, kinetics.tech. And then once you do that, then you could upload your video and export it as an FBX file that can be used in various content creation programs. So for instance, our Wizard software, it'll come right in there and you could attach it to avatars. And they've also partnered with Mixamo and Ready Player Me, so you can directly attach to those types of avatars on their browser platform. And I was going to mention there's also another company, Rococo AI, doing another option that also exports as FBX. And so yeah, this is just for getting really easy motion capture. This is another solution that's IMU based. So this is from Sony, and this can be used to create motion capture or stream to animate characters in real time. And reportedly, they will have a plugin for Motion Builder as well, so that'll increase its compatibility, which that's another way to be able to get this into our Wizard software also is through Motion Builder. This is priced at around $350, and that's called Mokopi. And then this is another setup for doing real-time full body tracking with multiple users using only standard cameras. This is called AR51. And as I said, this can do multiple users, finger tracking. There are no markers or suits required, and the calibration is pretty quick and simple. And this is also, all of these are using, well, this is also using some AI algorithms similar to the Kinetics is also using AI. And this is Reallusion, which is a company that specializes in production quality avatar workflows. They now offer a free tool for auto-rigging any avatar, which also this is similar to what Mixamo offers on their website, where you can upload an avatar that's just in the T-pose and rig it up with a skeleton, but this is another way of doing that and gives you a very high detailed skeleton. Exports as SVX, and this is a free tool to use. So it's called AccuRig, Reallusion AccuRig. And moving on to haptics and input devices. So Haptics, which is a company that's been around for a while with their haptic vest. At CES, they also showed an additional haptic faceplate and haptic gloves. And then there's a company OWO, which is another company with a haptic vest, but this one has what they call micro sensations. And they say these can be combined to create an infinite number of sensations with the micro sensations. And then Meta's still developing their neural wristband, which is the VR watch, which basically it can communicate your intended actions to the computer with almost no hand movement after just a little bit of training. This is something that, I mean, you probably, for those who watched the Meta Connect event, they talked about this, and they've been talking about it for a couple of years, but it uses EMG to measure inputs as it learns how you interact and use your hand, and then eventually it learns more and more to where then eventually it's like you barely have to move your hand at all, or maybe eventually not at all, and then it'll just understand what your intended actions are. Another device shown at CES was the flip controller from Shiftall. This is designed to address the issue of wanting to go between using a controller and using your hands in VR without having to fumble with like setting down and picking up controllers. You just simply flip the controller part out of the way with a flick of your wrist, and then the controllers can then use your hands, and these are tracked with the Lighthouse tracking system. And then actually at GDC last year, Manus introduced their latest VR gloves, the Manus Quantum Meta gloves. So these have a higher level of accuracy than previous models, especially when it comes to self-contact, so like touching your fingers together. And they use a magnetic field to sense finger position along with stretch sensors and haptic feedback. And then there's the Sense Glove Nova gloves. These use passive resistance-based haptics with force feedback and vibrotactile feedback. So they can provide up to 2 kilograms equivalent resistance to your thumb, index finger, middle finger, and ring finger. And these are OpenXR compatible. And this is a big topic, so just have to briefly cover over this because we could do a whole webinar on this right now. But obviously, machine learning and AI seems to be rapidly changing the landscape of a lot of industries, and definitely XR. So just to give you a few examples, so in VR training scenarios, machine learning can be used to tailor and modify an experience based off of the user's interactions. And so by analyzing the user's behavior and performance in real time, the system can then adjust the difficulty level of the simulation, offer targeted feedback, and even generate new challenges to align with the user's progress and goals. And also by collecting and analyzing large amounts of user data, the machine learning algorithms can help identify patterns and insights that can inform the design of future VR training programs. And danger awareness in military, like AR training, is another advantage. So AI can give by creating realistic scenarios and providing real-time feedback to soldiers, allowing them to identify and respond to potential threats more effectively. This is probably one we'll be seeing more and more now with the things like ChatGPT, so AI chatbots that you can just place in a VR scenario, so you could talk and interact with virtual agents just using natural language. And so there's not going to be the limitation of scripting as much. And surgeries using augmented reality can be enhanced through the use of AI, both in training and in practice. And this is something I've been using a lot myself now, and this is using, well, ChatGPT is a good example, but there's CodePilot and a few where you can actually generate code using natural language or fix errors in code summarize and condense code. So a lot of the coding struggles can be helped now with these tools. And another big one, actually, which I'll go to a little bit more in the next slides, is just generative AI to create content from 3D models. So you can use a text prompt to create 3D models or physical environment mapping. And then there's also a deep learning super sampling uses AI so that you can render at extremely high resolutions, but it's actually running at like a lower resolution. And so this is just one example right now, which is something you could use today, is a text prompt to 3D model. This actually just right now generates a pretty low quality 3D point cloud, but then you could take it into like Blender or something and clean it up. And it's an example of something that's at the lower, like kind of what's available right now to be able to use, but at a higher kind of more advanced. You see how things like NVIDIA's Magic 3D or Dream Fusion, where you can actually generate pretty high quality 3D models from a text prompt. So those are probably, I'd imagine, as a lot of other these AI generative things, it's going to advance really quickly. So pretty soon you just create 3D models and you just type in what you want, like a corgi wearing a Santa hat. And we're seeing now Roblox, they're integrating generative AI into their platform. So you just type in, you want this car with a certain texture, or even for interactivity, like lights will do certain things, or just using natural language. And this is kind of I'd say it'd be kind of an update to like photogrammetry, but this is something called NeRFs, or neural radiance fields. And so it uses a neural network to generate it just takes a partial set of 2D images or even a video, and you can generate a complex 3D scene from just a few 2D images. And it needs a lot less information than photogrammetry, and then you could create an interactive 3D scene. And this is a link to some more information on that here. And there's also a link to NVIDIA's Instant NeRF tool, which is the GitHub for that. And as I said, we could share these slides so you can find those links and get this later. And also just recently, there was an Oxford paper using something they're calling Real Fusion, which just uses one single image, and you could create a 360 3D model just from one image. So that's scaling up even more from where this is, but this is NeRFs. And yeah, as the ability to both generate and obtain and share content continues to improve, there's tools that have been around for a while, but they're just getting easier and easier, and more content, things like Sketchfab and 3D model libraries and GLTF, and creating the ability to just go between different 3D modeling programs with a very high level of compatibility. And so now moving on to 360 video content generation. So there's a new camera, the Candio Obsidian Pro, which it's a high-end camera. It can film at 12K in 3D 360. It has, as you can see, large sensors, high resolution, and bit depth, and can also do live streaming. So they just used this recently to live stream the Artemis launch. And it goes up against like the Insta Pro 360 Titan, which is another high-end 360 camera. And for those of you not aware of this option now, there's now the ability to use cloud rendering to essentially run a device in standalone mode, like the Quest 2, for instance, and then you could connect to a PC application, like, for instance, our Wizard software, or any Steam VR game. And as long as you have pretty good internet connection, I think like 5 gigabytes. I mean, like, it doesn't need like a really fast internet connection, but it's going to be probably better for having a faster connection. But then you could stream PC apps to a standalone headset. And so that's Pluto Sphere. And then there's another one called Shadow, but that one's mostly focusing on 2D gaming. And then speaking also of wireless connections, at 2023, Intel announced a partnership with Meta to make their wireless card, the Wi-Fi 6E AX1690 card, work to improve the latency when streaming to VR headsets wirelessly from a PC, so reducing the latency from 30 milliseconds to 5. And now to go on to some software solutions and going on to software platforms, Meta is still trying to push the adoption of Horizon Workrooms as a way to connect for virtual meetings and work in VR. So they now have partnered with Microsoft to embed Teams into the software. And actually recently there was the first court case was held in VR using Workrooms, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, it's still being refined, but currently you can bring in your desktop and stream it with other people and use things like have a real keyboard that you can interact with and use your controller as a stylus. So if you flip around your controller, you can use it to write on a virtual whiteboard. And it also now is integrated with face, eye, and hand tracking. And then this is a Magic Rooms. It's just an update to can be used with Horizon Workrooms for hybrid teams. So someone's using a AR device or a different like desktop mode or whatever. It just allows for hybrid remote teams. And the Microsoft Mesh. So this is designed for collaboration and presence and shared immersive experiences using any type of device from anywhere. So it's like if you have a VR headset or a PC or mobile device. And they also have their integrated with their digital twins for representing both physical products and yourself. And then SightLab VR, so this is one of our software solutions, but it's a drag and drop experiment generator for VR. So it's built on Vizard, which is a Python-based software, and it allows for seamless integration of data from various sources, such as eye tracking, using things like head and hand position, physiological measurements, user interactions, and a whole lot more. And then it can use a drag and drop interface so that you can do it without having to use any code, or you can add more code to it using Python. And so pretty quickly you can just create a immersive scenario with 3D models or 360 videos and then customize them. Then there's pre-made templates you can use or customize it with more Python code. And then the experiments can be run on a whole wide range of VR hardware. So with eye tracking or headsets without eye tracking, then you just use head position. And then the output can be visualized in an interactive 3D playback. So you can have a full interactive playback of the experiment. And then you can overlay that with heat maps, 3D gaze paths, and then you get video recordings, you get the raw data. So it's just pretty comprehensive, like, understanding of the experiment. And this actually could work multiple users too, up to 5 users right now. And that's something, if you have more questions on that, you can ask us about it. And NVIDIA's Omniverse, so this is a pretty powerful platform for creating 3D simulations in the metaverse, and allows for cross-platform collaboration using a interchangeable 3D format, which is actually the .USD format. And it combines AI, physics, 3D models, materials. And so users can work on the same project collaboratively using different 3D modeling programs. And they have a big focus on digital twins. So where real world objects are simulated in a digital environment. And so they're actually doing a digital twin of the whole Earth for doing some simulations of things like mapping the ocean floor and looking at global warming. And they also have integrated with their AI-powered avatars, which can also synthesize your own voice. And this is the universal scene description format. And as far as virtual online communities, so Meta, for just going in and just hanging out in VR, I mean, this is something it's obviously it seems like it's had a bit of a tough time getting people to adopt, because now sadly we're seeing the alt space VR is shutting down. High fidelity kind of has shifted gears, so they're not really focusing on VR now. They're just using basically spatialized audio for video chat. But there are still some. I mean, Horizon Worlds is still pushing VR chat, is probably the most used one right now for this specific use case. And there's Viveverse, which is Vive's sort of metaverse application, Mozilla Hubs, which is where you can create and share online worlds. there's something called Frame, which can you can build VR worlds in a browser, so that's built on the JavaScript. And yeah, overall, like I said, it's been a bit tough getting people to adopt to just a bunch of people hanging out in VR and not necessarily for a specific kind of focused work case. And then quickly on the subject Horizon Worlds, there's a couple more updates to Meta's avatars, which they announced at the Connect. So there's going to be improved graphics, and it's going to utilize the facial tracking, eye tracking. It'll simulate leg tracking so that you'll see other users' legs moving, even though it's not mapped to any kind of leg tracker. And these will be able to be used in video calls and other applications. And then also there's, on the experimental front, there's the Meta codec avatars, which are approaching very full realism with the avatars here. And there's actually now the ability to create one of these avatars using just 3 photos taken from a phone. And then you could do things like change hairstyles and clothes. And so you could see it's definitely a very high resolution photorealistic avatars. And this is still not something that's being used on a consumer level just yet. But yeah, that's kind of the general overview. Like I said, if you have more questions, you can feel free to contact us, but I'm going to pass it now over to Matthias, who's going to discuss some of the overall trends across industries.
Tato, I've got one more poll I got to show, so I'm going to just go ahead and launch that right now. If you hand it over to Matthias,
oh yeah,
no problem.
Okay, sorry, I guess we're going to another poll.
All good. So yeah, thank you so much, Sato, for that presentation. I think there was a lot of material covered, but what we'd love to hear from you all right now is, what are you most excited about of these trends that we've discussed so far? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to launch this new poll. So the different things that we talked about, just to give a quick rundown, and there's only 5 questions we can ask, so we had to kind of combine some things, but basically you've got your smaller form factor headsets, the my more sunglass looking VR headsets. For many of our research customers and for us in the academic space, we see this improved sensor technology as being really important. Increased eye tracking and higher fidelity eye tracking, as well as physiological data collection. And then, of course, on our more enterprise side, the projection-based and immersive room technology for us is obviously hugely exciting. Things like PRISM and also these huge LED environments. And then, of course, this AI-enabled tool sets. So really just sort of blowing things away in terms of these workflows, making things a lot easier in the content creation side. And then finally, and this is an interesting one, but these mixed reality headsets, so these new devices that allow you to sort of have the best of both worlds in terms of augmented and virtual reality. So the new Meta Quest Pro, the new Vive Elite, these are certainly mixed reality headsets. So we've got great participation. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and close this poll now and share the results. A really healthy spattering across. So small form factor headsets is looking like a little low right now, but AI-enabled tool sets, projection-based immersive rooms in the lead. I have to agree with that. And improved sensor technology and mixed reality in a close second. So this is fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. Our Q&A still open. So if you've got questions about anything that we just discussed, go ahead, put that in the Q&A section. I'm going to go ahead and hand over to Matthias now, and he's going to give us a little bit of analysis of this market and some high-level projection as to where things are going. So Matthias, I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter now.
You might have to close the poll first.
Got it. Thanks, Matthias.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Okay, thanks. So now I need to get presenter here. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Did something wrong.
Let me try this again really fast here. I'll make you presenter now. You should have it now.
Okay, now I can show my screen.
Got
And
it.
in my excitement, I already went to the next slide here. So I hope you all can see my screen right now. And thanks for sticking around. And while obviously listening to Sato and Dan and Bryce, I kept watching people. And it's pretty cool that like pretty much everybody who joined us stuck around throughout that whole long list of devices that Sado went through, right? In terms of the trends that we are seeing, I think that became pretty clear even from what Sado told us. There's obviously a trend towards like having the headset more integrated and no cables attached, right? That's something that makes sense. And there's a lot of these, even though the headset get more integrated and no cables attached, there's obviously a trend to have better and more sensors. So one trend that's almost every device, including even the gaming devices, start to have eye tracking in there. Some of them don't expose it for like research use, but they're using it in order to just have what's called foveated rendering, like the new Sony headset, for example, and just have higher performance because it only renders what you're looking at, and with less power, you can get better image qualities, right? And then what we see on the pricing side is the consumer pricing. I wouldn't say like lower, but overall, it's always been like consumers typically don't want to spend more than $1,000, and typically it has to be less than 500. So you kind of see those prices like sometimes it's a little higher, sometimes it's a little lower, but you see them hovering around, like I would say, a couple hundred to 1,000. What's interesting to see is on the enterprise side, though, in a way, not so nice to see, but in a way expected, is on the enterprise side, prices have been going up. So if you want to buy a Magic Leap or a Varjo or any of those high-end devices, you're actually back in the range typically between $10,000 and $20,000, which is the range we have seen 15 years ago. That was always the B2B range, and obviously that's a specialty device for a very specific purpose. And for that, it's worth it. But it gets more expensive currently on the enterprise side for the really high-end stuff. And obviously, then the high-end stuff really has amazing optics and amazing sensor technology, right? So I want to jump directly into the next one because we're pretty far on time right now. So the next slide here is trying to give us a little bit of an overview of the sectors, how the VR market breaks up, right? And interesting is that it looks like currently the VR market really breaks up in almost a little bit more than half what we could call consumer, which is really driven by video games as the largest segment, and live events and video entertainment. And really, I'm thinking it might not have been mentioned by Sado, but it's yes, one thing that was also shown is actually the next iteration of the Sony PlayStation VR headset. And that is pretty impressive piece of technology, really, and clearly shows that even on the gaming side, there is a solid path forward right now, right? And then you see markets like Dan said already, AEC, architecture, engineering, construction, really kind of starting to embrace the value, partially of headsets, but partially also of projection capabilities. It's happening, and it's clear it's going there. And then, like obviously in healthcare, there's always been applications, and they're getting more refined. They're getting certified, right? So there's like pain treatment applications. There's all these remote treatment kind of possibilities that can be done better with interactivity, sometimes even with HMDs, with headsets. And then obviously also on the education side, people are eyeing it, and you see the first implementation of larger scale rollouts. And it's not easy to do that on the education side because of the requirements for usability and also the requirements for pricing, but you see it moving there, and also on some other areas. Then like one last slide I wanted to just show is here the market predictions. What's interesting is for those predictions, like traditionally you have seen these predictions that were going almost like logarithmic up, and this is more kind of almost like a linear exploration right now here. Like it's showing it's a more conservative prediction in a way, but it shows the market's in the billions and it's growing, right? And what's also interesting is that people are starting to break out even exactly the kind of ways of doing it that we have also broken out, which is head-mounted display, gesture tracking devices, and projection in conjunction with each other. And overall, it's still a high growth market that's expected here. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. And let me actually see here one second. Like last not least, Dan already mentioned it, but I wanted to mention it again. With all that virtual reality, there is obviously still something really nice to get together, and me as a German guy, like drink a beer together basically, or like really get hands-on and try things out together. And the BioPack T4 or 4T, it's called now, conference here in Santa Barbara is one of such options. And I've been part of, I think, 3 of them. And this is hands-on. This is not just you sitting there listening to something. This is you getting your hands dirty and actually learning. On the virtual reality track, we will work with people to really create experiments. You get your hands dirty, you learn how to use gear, you can try different gear. So I can just, again, highly recommend you consider that. Early bird pricing is until the end of February. After that, it's $100 more. It's not a huge jump up, but that's something you should consider. I think there's also limitation in participants. So it could fill up and then you wouldn't get in anymore. So anyway, consider that as an option. If you really are interested, you can get your hands dirty and experience things when you come by here. And that's it for my end. So I hand it back to Dan here, or Dan, you can take back over if you want.